Magic the Gathering is home to a lot of cutesy, cuddly cards that make the game's many new converts feel safe and comfortable. However, this wasn't always the case. Magic actually has a history of some pretty disturbing cards, whether it be due to a card's name, the implications of its lore, or more frequently, just a really off-putting artwork. To celebrate the spookiest day of the spookiest month, I'll be going over my picks for the top 10 most disturbing cards in all of Magic. Starting off tame at number 10, I have Flesh Taker. This is a 2/2 creature for 1 white and 1 black, first printed in 2021's Innistrad Midnight Hunt. It has an ability that encourages sacrificing other creatures, letting you gain life and scry 1 each time, and you can even do so by paying 1 generic. When you do so using Flesh Taker's ability, it also gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Its flavor text describes it as a soulless husk of endless hunger. Your eyes return to the artwork, seeing a bull-headed humanoid creature carrying a butcher's cleaver with other butcher's implements in its belt. Old blood stains its uniform. The creature is standing in what appears to be a cornfield, and between the husks you can see the lavender light of sunset fading in the background. Rather than a minotaur, a beast, an ox, or some other combination of types, Flesh Taker turns out to be a human assassin, and this reveal is a jump scare all its own. That means this individual is a butcher very intentionally stalking their prey while wearing the preserved head of some livestock. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm definitely not hitting up any corn mazes anytime soon. Predictably, most of today's list will be black cards, or at least partially black cards, since that color of mana deals with monsters, the dark, and all things sinister. But number 9 is a rare exception to this rule. It's Curse of Surveillance. This aura also hails from Innistrad Midnight Hunt and costs 4 generic and 1 blue mana. At the beginning of the cursed player's upkeep, it lets you and any number of players other than the cursed player draw cards equal to the number of curses that player has. The effect alone is a bit spooky for whichever player happens to be cursed with this, but the artwork is what's most unsettling here. It depicts a hand with slightly bloodshot eyeballs growing out of its palm and fingertips. The name of the card leads you to realize that these eyes are not just there to make you squeamish, they're watching you. To make things even darker, the flavor text describes how even gouging these eyes out of the flesh only results in more appearing. In this situation, I'd probably just invest in some gloves and try not to think about it too much. At number 8, I have a blast from Magic's past, The Fallen, first released in the 1994 expansion The Dark. This is a 2/3 for 1 generic and 3 black. Not a great stat line for that cost, but it does have a beneficial effect. At the beginning of your upkeep, it does 1 damage to each opponent it's dealt damage to this game. Get in for 1 hit with the Fallen and you have a reliable pinger for as long as you control it. While this creature originally came with the antiquated type Fallen, it was reclassified as a zombie after the Grand Creature type update of 2007. This card's flavor text suggests the Fallen is a result of some spell gone awry, as Magic often masters those who cannot master it. The implications of this are plenty spooky, but if I'm being real, I'm more focused on the artwork. The red pupils in those sunken eye sockets, the bared teeth, the shadows, it's pretty scary to look at. You know what else is scary? Only 1.1% of my viewers are actually subscribed, so if you're enjoying the video so far, do me a favor by liking and subscribing below. It's free and only takes a second to help the channel grow. Now let's get back into the scares with number 7, Phyrexian Unlife. This enchantment debuted in 2011's New Phyrexia, fittingly, and it costs 2 generic and 1 white. This gives you the unique effect where you don't lose the game for having 0 or less life. Rather, as long as you have 0 or less life, all damage dealt to you is dealt as poison counters. This is one rare card where I feel like the effect actually plays into the fear factor. Sure, thanks to the glistening oil of Phyrexia, your life is spared, but it immediately sets a countdown for you to figure out a way to win, because if you don't, your unnatural immunity to death will be broken thanks to poison. And that's to say nothing of what happens if your opponent just destroys this enchantment. The artwork obviously isn't making the situation any more relaxing. It features a humanoid figure absolutely drenched in oil, as well as a porcelain mask of sorts. You can see the person's true oil-slick skin around the eyes, which are wide open and staring ominously at the viewer as they appear to cry tears of glistening oil. It makes you wonder if this is the price to pay for immortality. Is it even worth it? My pick for number 6 on this list of the most disturbing cards is Abomination of Llanowar. This is a legendary elf horror for 1 generic, 1 black, and 1 green, first printed in Commander Legends. It has star power and toughness because these are both equal to the number of elves you control plus the number of elves in your graveyard. I do want to take a moment to appreciate the flavor genius of this card, as its Golgari identity gives it both vigilance and menace, and it rewards both living and dead creatures equally. This is further reflected in the card's disturbing flavor text. The Abomination of Llanowar is a writhing mass of elves, glued, stitched, or otherwise tangled together by some unknown means. Half of its constituent bodies are undead, reaching out their ghoulish arms and baring their teeth in hunger. Perhaps even more alarming is the living half of the abomination. Normal elves that are somehow bound up in this monstrosity. These elves are, at best, unwilling witnesses to the carnage about to unfold, or worse, perhaps unwilling participants. Yeah, best to listen to the living mouths and run far away. Number 5 is another blue card, Sensory Deprivation from Magic 2014. This is an aura for 1 blue mana that enchants a creature, giving it -3/-0. The flavor text is something out of a medical malpractice nightmare. They call it Stitcher's Anesthesia, a spell to deaden the senses while the mad doctors begin their grisly work. The artwork depicts a subject with stitches on their lips and both of their eyes. At first glance, it looks like they might be trying to open their eyes, but then you realize they might just be hanging open in their unconsciousness and held together by stitches. I think the ambiguity of the artwork, is the subject awake or asleep or somewhere between the two, really enhances the fear factor. Of course, the point might be moot when you consider that this is an anesthetic spell meant to put a patient under while they receive grisly operations, so let's just hope the subject is actually out cold. At number 4, we have Transgress the Mind. This is a devoid sorcery for 1 and 1 black. It lets you look at an opponent's hand and exile a card with mana value 3 or greater from it. The flavor text is a quote by Anawan the Ruin Sage stating, "Fear of the unknown can be a wonderfully innocent thing, relatively speaking." The implication here seems to be that the fear of the unknown is inadequate, at least until you're faced with the actual threat you should be afraid of, but don't fully understand. The artwork certainly underscores that point as well. It appears to depict the Eldrazi Titan Ulamog physically reaching through a defenseless victim's brain through the mouth at the base of the skull. Fitting for a reality-warping being like Ulamog, and fitting that this card is devoid as a result. As disturbing as this art is, I don't think it's quite as haunting as the next card on today's list, which is number 3, Peer into the Abyss. The artwork, yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. This is a sorcery for a whopping 4 generic and 3 black mana. Target player draws half their library and loses half their life, rounding up each time. Despite the punishing drawback of losing half your life and the apparent synergy it might have with mill decks, this card is most often used to target oneself, as drawing half your library in 1 turn is just a massive swing in card advantage. As beneficial as this card can be, we can't ignore that freakishly unnerving card art. A blue-skinned, pointy-eared individual appears to be, well, peering into the abyss, eyes and mouth wide open to reveal additional faces peering out of them. And out of the mouths and eyes of those faces are more faces. The artwork masterfully depicts a sort of twisted glimpse of infinity that leaves the subject mentally scarred. That makes sense given the flavor text, a quote by Braids, the Cabal Dementia caster from Dominaria. If you ask me, insanity seems like a perfectly natural response to whatever's happening here. Descending even deeper into the depths of horror, we arrive at number 2, Evil Eye of Urborg. First printed in Time Spiral, this is a black eye, more specifically a 6/3 for 4 generic and 1 black. It prevents non-eye creatures you control from attacking. That's tough considering there are only 10 in the game. The Evil Eye also has a nerfed form of Death Touch, where it destroys any creature that blocks it. There's not really much to say about the artwork that you probably can't gather at a glance, but I'll do it anyway. The eye is deeply unsettling, a ball of pink flesh surrounding a bloodshot cornea, red-ringed iris, and widened pupil. Black tendrils of flesh dangle from its underside. It presides over a ruined wasteland, greenish-yellow light faintly bleeding through the black clouds. And you can't help but get the sense that, at any moment, the eye could snap and look in your direction. For me, the weirdest thing about Evil Eye of Urborg is that it doesn't have flying. I mean, what does it do? Walk around on its tendrils like a spider? Okay, maybe that's even more frightening. But my pick for the absolute most disturbing card in all of Magic is haunting in a different way. In fact, it's almost sickening just to look at. That card is number 1, Ad Nauseam. This instant debuted in the Shards of Alara expansion, and it costs 3 generic and 2 black. It lets you reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand, then you lose life equal to its mana value. You can then repeat this process any number of times. The American Heritage Dictionary defines the term ad nauseam to mean, to a disgusting or ridiculous degree, to the point of nausea. Indeed, the original Latin term literally meant to sickness, describing something done past the point where it could ever be considered beneficial. The card's name is reflected shockingly well in the card's effect as well as the artwork and flavor text, one of the most perfect matches of function and flavor that I've ever seen on a Magic card. The artwork depicts a semi-armored humanoid being with a withered, emaciated body, eyes and mouth wide as their skin is stretched taut over exposed bone. It seems this person worked so furiously and unceasingly that their arms were reduced to pointed nubs, to the point that they had to use specialized tools to complete their work. However, a closer inspection reveals some even more terrifying details. The individual has a Dimir symbol on their forehead, as this card was originally designed for Ravnica City of Guilds. The stacks of papers around the individual are blank, but the papers beneath them all bear the same symbol. And if you look very closely at the contraptions on the arms, they're actually paintbrushes. And what's that tubing snaking around the side? Oh, that's blood. This individual is either willingly or being forced to write the same thing over and over again countless times using their own blood. Yeah, I'm starting to get a little nauseous just talking about it. There you have my picks for the top 10 most disturbing cards in Magic the Gathering. Which card did you find the scariest? Were there any cards you think I might have missed that deserved a spot in today's video? Tell me all about it down in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe for more MTG and Yu-Gi-Oh content in the future. If you want even more scares today, then check out my main channel, where I just turned Bakura's Battle City deck into Magic cards. If you've made it to this outro, I appreciate you being here, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.